Welcome to another episode of me reviewing highlights. As always, I'll include timestamps for each section of this video in the description so you can directly jump to them, as well as the links to the books themselves. So, with that, let's get started with our highlights for today. The first one is from Kill It With Fire. We assume the sun, moon, stars, and the board of directors will all magically reconfigure themselves around the right technical answer simply because it's the right technical answer. We are horrified to discover that most people do not actually care how healthy a piece of technology is as long as it performs the function they need it with a reasonable degree of accuracy in a time frame that doesn't exhaust their patience. In technology, good enough reigns supreme. There's this very common notion of boring technology as well, that the technology that's boring is actually well understood. So, as far as business is concerned, all of this new trends in technology and all of it doesn't really matter. They don't care about it. They care about it only as long as it solves a real problem. And what makes sense about this is that businesses exist to solve a society's need. At least the businesses that are sustainable, that persist, right? So if we look at it at the lens of sustainability overall, the um, and I do believe we need to write software that is sustainable. So this all fits in that way. Businesses that are there to solve a particular problem, they don't care about the technology, the right technology. It's kind of like the free market theory that all the forces will balance themselves out. That is, yeah, there are pitfalls of picking up the wrong technology or a short-term thinking, but that is something that corrects itself. Um, so yeah, this is it's on the surface of it, it is quite obvious that yeah, businesses they don't care about this. But we have to think why. If we want to understand, if we want to work with this, and if we want to make sure that even the technology choices that don't seem optimal, how do we make sure that they work for a longer term? So yeah, let's move on to Feel Good Productivity. It's a new book. Just started reading it. Robert's interest wasn't really in teaching people to code. He was most interested in how we think about failure. His aim was to show that we are hugely disproportionately impacted by negative consequences, even arbitrary ones. And these consequences make us afraid of failure, even when we needn't be. Right, so over here, the author is talking about an experiment where this person, Robert, I'm forgetting the full name, but there was this experiment when he teaches people to code, and then the challenges. I'm forgetting what was the format of the challenges, but they were hard. They were quite hard. So, like the author says, the intention was not to teach people to code. It was to really see how we deal with failure. And yeah, of course the answer is that we are disproportionately impacted by negative consequences. We have seen this in other books, other studies as well. That there's no equivalence as such, but it's something like you need something like four positive or four wins to balance out one loss, something like that. It kind of like an average thing, it's not reducible that way, but yeah, just to help think of it. With that, let's move on. Again, feel good productivity. It showed that when we are in positive mood, we tend to consider a broader range of actions, be more open to new experiences, and better integrate the information we receive. In other words, feeling good boosts our creativity and our productivity. So, my note is that it refers to a study called Candle Study that showed people were more creative when in good mood. Okay, I'm forgetting why did they call it Candle Study? It had something to do with candles. I know that. But yeah, so the title of the book itself is Feel Good Productivity. Productivity about or the productivity that is enabled by feeling good. It's based on positive psychology, and it's all around that. So this candle study, it showed that when we are in a positive mood, we tend to consider a broader range of actions. Okay, I remember the study now. So it has to do with a candle. It's like it has a candle box and some nails, and it was like the challenge was that mount the candle on the wall so that the wax doesn't drip on the table below. So yeah. Um, so the study showed that when people were in a good mood, they were actually able to solve the problem faster or even solve the problem. Whereas people who were, I think, the control group, they didn't really, it didn't really matter, it differ for them. Of course, they were the control group, so it wouldn't matter to them. So yeah, I won't go too deep into it. The book's there, and of course, I'll put the link. Right. So we'll go on to the Song of Significance. There's nothing wrong with meetings. There's a lot wrong with meetings that are lazy, ineffective, or manipulative. So the point is, and we have seen this again and again, that meetings often tend to get ineffective. It's just that, okay, forget the agenda. We'll meet and we'll figure out the agenda. We just have a problem statement and we'll figure out what to do with the whole hour, or what to do with the half an hour. What do we do with that? We'll just figure it out at the meeting. So that's ineffective. It's because people either don't give importance to the agendas, or at least planning for a meeting, or they just don't want to do it, which is why the author is calling it lazy or manipulative. That is, I don't care. You just be there when I asked you to be there. So that's the usual format of meetings. More often than not, meetings tend to be one of these things where it's not planned and it doesn't respect everybody's time. It causes interference, and there's a lot wrong with meetings. We have talked about it enough number of times. So yeah, that's what the author says. Moving on to the molecule of more. But addictive drugs are so powerful that they bypass the complicated circuitry of surprise and prediction and artificially ignite the dopamine system. In this way, they scramble everything up. All that's left is a gnawing craving for more. This book is about dopamine. That's what the title refers to, the molecule of more. We just want more and more of it. That's dopamine, right? So normally dopamine is kicked in by the reward system, that you do something that makes you feel good, or something happens that makes you feel good, and dopamine kicks in, and that's the reward. And the brain associates the reward with the good thing that happened, and you want more of it. The author is making a point that addictive drugs, they're so powerful because they bypass this whole complicated circuitry of surprise and prediction. So the wins, the author makes a point. It's not really the winning that matters; it's the surprise that is an unexpected win. If you're winning every day, like what does that look like? I don't know. But like for example, if things are going your way every day, then that's not what the author is talking about here. That's not something that prompts dopamine, or at least in that quantities. But if it's unexpected, if it's a surprise, yeah, then the dopamine kicks in. That's when the reward system kicks in, and that's what makes you feel good. The surprise, the good surprise, right? So the author says that the addictive drugs, they bypass this whole circuitry of surprise and prediction, and they directly ignite the dopamine system. And we just have the feeling of reward. There's no surprise. We're not doing anything new, but every time we take the drug, dopamine kicks up. So that just leaves in craving for more and more, and that's what makes the drugs addictive. Moving on, I mean those drugs addictive. Okay, choose possibility. To excel at a job, performing it with high levels of quality, effectiveness, and speed, efficiency, you can't simply work hard on only the parts you like. You have to risk your time and energy and seek to master all aspects of the job, including the boring parts. Right. So it's just saying that you have to do what you have to do. You can't pick only the good parts of the task and say that, okay, no, I'll only work on this and give away all the hard parts to somebody else. That doesn't lead to growth. That in fact doesn't even lead to sustainability, as in you might lose what you already have, because the things that we usually like, I mean, of course, different things are there is a differential in what's easy for one person to the next. But still, if that's the attitude, then there is no room for growth. You're always stuck at the same place, and in today's world, being stuck in the same place is actually moving backwards, like they say. So yeah, you have to risk your time and energy and seek to master all aspects of the job, including the boring parts, the parts that you feel boring. Pretty clear, I think. I would just move on. Wrong fit, right fit, and there is no perfect world. Everyone in every job will have low value tasks. work that is not a match to their passions or career interests, and busy work that is just the price of well doing business. The question is not how can I get rid of the meaningless stuff. It's how I can. It's how can I put more of my day towards more meaningful activities. And this is kind of like a perfect follow up with the previous highlight. That like I just said before, that there is nothing like a task where you're entirely happy. What was the thing? Yeah, or you can't just work on the things that you like. There will be things that you will have to do. There is like things that you like to do, and there are things that you have to do. And like this author says that it's just the price of well doing business. So the question is not how can I get rid of the meaningless stuff, because you can't, right? It that doesn't lead to growth. That doesn't really lead to anything. And it's more about how can I put more of my day towards more meaningful activities. And that's what the book talks about, right? In the fit, the finding a fit. There's no perfect fit. There's no perfect job out there that is exactly what you want to do to the tiniest of details. It's about finding a job where you find a meaningful outcome, and then accepting that, yeah, time to time we'll have to do some of the less the busy work or the meaningless stuff. And yeah, of course, you have a lot of options. You can delegate them, you can reduce them, but you can't entirely get rid of them. There will always be some parts of the job that you don't like as much, or you don't like at all. And what you do is that you focus more on the meaningful activities. That's the outcome. And this is still something that needs to be done, because the job needs to be done properly. Moving on to the team topologies. The DevOps team is now evolving into a DevOps evangelist team pattern, working with the client to educate and enable the individual project teams so they make themselves obsolete along the way. They will automate the deployment and operation step, implement monitoring and alerting solutions. They will then look to make development and operations own the automation and execution of it themselves. So this sounds very much like an enabling team. Maybe that's what they're talking about. It's been a while, so it sounds very much like an enabling team. Of course, the authors are using the word enable over here. They enable the individual project teams or the stream-aligned teams, because we're talking about team topologies. And the DevOps teams or the evangelist team, they make themselves obsolete, and that's what enablement teams do, right? They join the team to enable a functionality, and then they slowly phase out, because now the team is capable of running through all of those things. Now the teams have the project teams themselves, or the stream-aligned teams themselves. They have the skills to do the job, like this, on the automation and execution of it themselves. Moving on, Bittersweet. It's no accident that the phrase effortless perfection originated at the nation's elite universities, where young winners attempt to hold their gains, or that it was born during an era of rising rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide on campus. Because the phenomenon is not so much about perfection as it is about victory. It's about being the kind of person who wins, about floating so high that you avoid the bitter side of life. It's about not being a loser. We have discussed this notion of this culture of always wanting to win, or not, and uh, avoiding failure at all costs, or avoiding loss at all costs. I think, in today's culture, failure is at least accepted. That okay, people associate, okay, failure, learning, but loss is not accepted. There has to be some gain. Failure is also looked at the way of that, okay, what are we gaining from this failure, which is not wrong. Of course, we learn a lot from the failure. That's our gain, right? But again, what we're doing over there is that the distinguishing factor is that we ignore loss, and loss is important. It's a part of us. We're forgetting that we are human beings, and loss is a very essential part of being human. Um, Another book, mm, what is that? I'm forgetting the name, but Frankl, Viktor Frankl, I think. Something, the title had something to do with meaning. I'll put the link in the description. But over there, if there is any, there is this quote by the author, by the writer. If there is any meaning to life at all, it's in suffering. And it's profound, because I mean, you would realize it when you read the book. the In Search of Meaning. I'm forgetting the book's name. So, suffering, essentially, it's an essential part of being a human being, and we are covering that up. We are accepting failure today, but loss is still something that we don't accept. So it's still all about the victory and effortless perfection. This passage is about this phrase, effortless perfection, and the author is pointing out that it's no accident that it originated at elite universities where victory is everything. It's there's this whole profile of elite universities in the Ivy League and like these popular elite universities. I think that's a perfect word. I don't need to find another one. So yeah, uh, let's move on. Measure what matters. So OKRs forge your people. They mean stronger executives and help them avoid rookie mistakes. They implant the rigor and rhythm of a very large company into the framework of a very small company. The author continuously makes a point throughout the book that OKRs are a framework that is suitable for all sizes of companies. Uh, of course, the specifics may change, how you implement them. And the author again goes on to explain in the whole book that this system is quite flexible. You can have your frequency, you can have, as long as you measure it some way, uh, the key results. That's fine. So the clarity and objectives and key results. So as long as you do that, the rest of it doesn't matter. The rest of it, you can change the frequency as you like. You can change the reporting, the tracking, the way you like. So the the discipline and rigor and rhythm of a very large company, you can even have it in the small company because it picks the essential things that matter over here, the OKRs. And I think we are at the end of our highlights today. And so, no parting note today. You all have a good day and a good week. Thank you.